listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
Hey, and we are officially recording.
Hello, and welcome to the Balancing Act podcast. I am your co-host, Jamie Wonko. I'm here with Mr. Joseph in the basement, Vitale.
How we doing? Here we are once again.
We
Good to see you,
are.
friend. How are you?
Good. Thank you. We have a very exciting guest on the show today. We are, nervous because it's a big year for us in the Wonko and Vitale households.
Yes, it is a big year. I got to stay off of social media because all I get are like the videos of like kids leaving for college. Kids like, what do they bring in the dorm rooms? What do they put here? And nope, I'm not in that headspace yet.
Yeah.
But I need to be because right now we're knee deep and ankle deep in the Common App. So there's a lot of things going on. So we have, let's bring our guest in. So hopefully she can fix everything. Okay.
No
Hey,
pressure.
no pressure, of course. Hey, Jen, how are you? Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Great. How are you?
We are awesome. Full disclosure, I know you work as a college counselor for Educational Connections, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, which is full disclosure, a company that I also work for. I do executive function tutoring for them as well. So we'd like to thank Ann Dolan and the team at Educational Connections for connecting us and getting you here on our show because we were looking for a college expert to give us all the advice to fix all the things, and they chose you. So here we are.
I'll try to fix the best I can. We'll see.
Oh,
I'll give you some advice. I've been through it with my own kids too. So
yeah, we have some questions, and a lot of our listeners are also in the same space where they're either, kids that are in high school or they're rising juniors or rising seniors. And here we are. And it just kind of sneaks up on you. Although we've been prepared and looking at schools and going on visits, now we're in all right, well, now what do we do? How do we get these colleges to recognize that our children are wonderful and that they should let them into their schools? So that, there'll be some questions that we have that hopefully we can, shed some light on the process and how to make it a little bit easier for everyone. That would be great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in this whole thing and, the whole college counseling route?
absolutely. So my journey has been interesting. I actually started out as an associate director of admission at the University of Toledo back when I was much younger. And so I was on the recruiting side, reviewing applications and scholarship essays and things like that. And then after that, I kind of moved to the other side of the desk and worked as a college counselor for 15 years. And that was such an amazing experience and so much fun to work with students, especially because my own sons were there as well. So I got to not only experience the process of working with other students, but, go through it right along with the parents as a parent myself. And then I joined Educational Connections just about a year ago. And so now I'm kind of working on, I got all this experience behind me and looking forward to working with students in the future.
When you said you were a high school college counselor, were you working for a school district, like in a school, working with like high school kids to prepare
Yes,
them?
I know it
Okay.
sounds confusing.
A little bit.
I was actually at a small Catholic school here in Monroe, Michigan, and it was very very tiny school. We were fortunate to have it's such a small group of students that we didn't have to we could concentrate more on the college planning process than most high school counselors are able to because they have such a large caseload. I say there was actually two of us. So, not only did we do the other counseling stuff, but we also we started with freshman year with the whole college planning process with our students.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, by the time they were seniors, they were ready to go.
It does make sense. I teach 8th grade, and we start to talk about like middle of the year, the idea of what they're going to be doing in high school, and for a lot of kids up until that point, it doesn't click that it matters, or they really can't think in anything. Some of them more than like 10 minutes in front of them, so
Right.
it does start to click. But so it's really neat to watch them, and I just think it makes complete and total sense to start talking about that as a freshman because it really matters, and it's too late. If you're a junior, you can't get that time back, you know?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
with the
I was gonna say,
students with the students that I work with, through the executive function tutoring that I do, I also taught like a lot of them are 8th grade and freshmen. I have a couple sophomores right now. Some of them are involved in athletics, and I try to talk to them like, look, this kind of all starts like now. Like you could be like, well, let future me deal with that problem, but it really doesn't it really doesn't work in that way. Like it's the whole picture, right? You really have to make sure that you start from the jump in your high school career to make sure that you're, putting your best foot forward, all that stuff. So what does it look like for a freshman who would step into your office and meet with you about like how did it start is what you're saying? Because our children really didn't have that as freshmen. There was like, some later in the year, it was like, okay, what courses are you going to choose? What direction might you want to go in? What academic track are you on? But there really wasn't much in regards to like discussion surrounding the next step of college. What does that look like for a freshman when you were working in that role?
right. Well, the first thing is, we just sit down and we talk with the freshmen about what to expect. And Jamie, you're totally right. They can't think 10 minutes past, even juniors, high school juniors that I've worked with, it's hard to get them to really wrap their heads around it yet. They get excited, but they really don't they a lot of them don't even know what they want to major in, or it still seems so far away for them. So, but freshman year, you're absolutely right, Joe. The first thing we do is we talk about their courses. We explain to them that many colleges, especially the more selective schools, are looking at high school rigor. So they want to see that you're challenging yourself in high school. They want to see that you're taking those AP classes, those honors, IB, um, those dual enrollment classes, so that you're showing that you're challenging yourself, but they also want you to do well in those as well. So a lot of times we tell students, you want to challenge yourself, but you don't want to overdo it either. You also want to get good grades. So don't feel like you have to take every single AP or IB, or you don't have to take every single one of those classes. Maybe pick an area that you're interested in. Like, for instance, if you're interested in going into engineering or any of the STEM, professions, focus on maybe just taking that rigorous coursework in science or math, rather than just trying to spread yourself too thin. So that's the first thing we talk about. But we also let them know what colleges are going to expect 4 years from now. And there's things that they can start doing even as freshmen to put them in the right position for that. So in addition to classes and courses that they're taking, we also tell them they want to see how you're spending your time outside of high school, outside of the classroom. So how you're engaged, whether you're engaged in sports, or, if you have a job, if you play a musical instrument, clubs, community service, which is a big thing, you can start that as early as freshman year. So we also prep them with that and tell them what to expect when it comes to that.
I thought
Yeah.
you froze for a
No,
second, Joe.
I was actually looking at you to see if you if you were gonna ask.
I do.
Um,
I
no, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. So we have Joe has 2 kids. They're twins. They're starting their senior year, and my son is a senior as well. So, like Joe said earlier, we had started with some college visits. My son, I can only say he has zero idea when people ask him, like, what is it that you want to do? And recently we had we talked quite a bit about, what it is going to look like for him, or, what his living situation might be like. And of course, what is always on the table for us is like the financial, what are you going to do if you have $100,000 in loans to pay back? Like, what does that look like for you? Will you ever be able to move out of the house after college? Things like that, like to try to keep
Right.
it more realistic. But so lately, people have been asking him, what is it that you want to do? Oh, do you know where you want to go? No. Do you know what you want to major in? No. And he was getting so agitated, to like such a degree. And I recently said to him, look, I've been thinking a lot about this. I said, and you're going to have to not get agitated.
Right.
because the rest of your life is going to go like this. Oh, did you get a job? Oh, where are you living? Oh, do you have a girlfriend? Oh, you going to get engaged? Now you're engaged. Oh, when's the wedding? Oh, when are you going to have a baby? Oh, retire, right? So it's a very like topical conversation, like for people almost who don't
Right.
know what to talk about. Like I said,
Right.
so if you're going to be mad, and I mean, when I tell you, and he's usually pretty even keel, but like every time somebody would ask him, he was just flooded with like, he was just so annoyed. And I said,
Right.
well, then you're going to be annoyed forever. So you're
Right.
gonna have to, like, learn to cool it, right? I mean, you're gonna have like, "Oh, you're having another baby? Good luck with that. You're never gonna sleep again," right? You know, it's like all those common things that and it's like, "Oh my goodness, yeah, I know,
That's
uh,
it.
I said, "Right." So I said, "You're gonna either have to come up with a response because you cannot get mad you know, I understand it's like the pressure of it, but so my question I have lots of them, but my question would be where does the importance lie for a kid who has absolutely no idea, 0,
Mhm.
with what they would like to do?
Okay. First of all, it's okay. Second of all, it's much more common with boys. I have 2 boys also, I wanna mention. I have one that graduated a few years ago, and he's starting his junior year of college. And then, I have my younger son is right in the same shoes as your kids. He's starting his senior year right now. And,
And by the way, my twin not to interrupt, my twins, my daughter's like, "I'm gonna do this. This is what I want to major in, blah, blah, blah." My son's like, I don't know. I'll figure it." We call him go with the flow Joe, because literally he's like, "Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'll figure it out." So sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but, like, when you say it's more
Mhm.
common with boys, like, I'm literally living that day in and day out. So go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yes. I'm sure we could share lots of stories.
Yes, we can.
Um, well, and it's okay. I mean, think about it. These kids are what, 17 years old? I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 17 years old. I remember my counselor, and this is probably one of the only things I remember about high school. I remember my counselor asking me, "Jen, what do you want to major in? You want to go to college. What do you want to major in?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know. You tell me. I don't even know what's out there. Like, what? There might be the perfect job for me out there that I don't even know exists." And I think that's how some students feel. Now, luckily, the landscape has changed quite a bit since we were in high school. So, now there's all these great programs out there that can help students look for, careers. There's personality tests they can take that match careers to them. And, people are talking about it more. Teachers are talking about it earlier in high school. There's opportunities for job shadowing. There's all this stuff out there. We just got to get them to use it. So, we start that early. We need to start that early, or we don't want to wait until just before senior year. So one of the other things that we talk about, this is one of the things I did at the high school was, we would do these career exploration activities with our students. Sophomore year was a big year for that. So sophomore year, we do a lot of career exploration. We would have them do projects on, do some research projects on maybe a career that they thought was interesting. And they would present it to the class. And so that all the students in the class would see, get a taste of what these different careers were that they maybe never heard of before. And then we would do a career day at the high school where we would have people come in and talk to students about that. Not all the high schools have the luxury of doing that because these counselors are so overworked at the high schools. So you can't get mad at them because they're trying their best. But for students who don't have that ability to do that, those opportunities aren't offered to them at the high school. I would say, there's plenty of things out there online that they can research. They can even type in Chat GPT, or they can do a Google search. What is a good career for somebody who likes XYZ or that's good at XYZ? And things will just come up, and then they can just start looking. One of the things I do tell students to do, and the best time to do it is junior year or the summer after junior year, is start job shadowing people. Okay.
Mm,
It's not that difficult to do. People love to share what they do, right, for a living. So, students, I always tell students, just if you're interested in being a physical therapist, there's there's physical therapists in the area. Do a Google search on physical therapists in the local area. Call them up and say, "Hey, I'm a high school student. I'm potentially interested in becoming a physical therapist. I'm interested in learning a little bit more about it. Can I shadow you for the day? Couple hours or
It's
however.
funny that you say physical therapist because I keep telling my son, like, I am manifesting so when people say to him, like, "Whoa, do you have I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna be a physical therapist." He just like, I started like answering because I was trying to, get out of the annoyance. But I feel like Joe was laughing a little bit before, and maybe I'll see if I'm right or not. But our kids, so Drew had the class and the projects, and it was like, well, what did you pick? I picked teacher, and my husband and I are both teachers, and it was like, no, you should have picked something you don't know really about, but
Right.
okay, fine, I'm not in your class, and it's fine. So he takes this assessment, and I'm sure,
I didn't
and
want to mention. I wasn't
well,
going to
I'll
mention, but I
mention it.
wanted
It's
to.
fine.
Go ahead.
And they told him like the number one job he's suited for is to be a bellhop.
Yeah, I've seen those before.
He was so mad. I mean, really, and so also he's in this position because and it's self-imposed and he's very happy about it, but it has hindered our kids have block scheduling. So they
Okay.
only have 4 classes at a time. It's for half a
Right.
year. And my son is like deep into music and plays in the band. So he's in 4 bands, marching, concert, jazz. I don't know, I can't even keep up with all the bands. But what happens is he never had another elective. So it's band, band, band. So now we're pretty excited going into senior year because this is the first time, other than Spanish, I was like, you're good. Like, you're done with Spanish. And he now can actually, he's enrolled for this year in a few classes that I'm hoping are going to help him kind of focus in on, on some other areas of things that he might be interested in. But, so then sometimes you are stuck in that, like, wow, it told me I'm going to be a bellhop. Which, I'm like, maybe they meant hotel management, like always
Right.
trying to
There
head.
might have been a particular family that's very close with her family that maybe sent like a little bell from Amazon, maybe.
That
Which she
bell
got a
now
good laugh
lives
at it.
in my classroom
Yes.
because it was not allowed in our house anymore.
Yes. Also it's
Here's the
very
thing about those.
my son and Jamie's son are also very good friends. So we were on vacation last summer and we were in Hawaii. We took a big trip to Hawaii and we were at the hotel. And then my son just leans over to me and goes, "Hey, do you think Drew would want to work over there?" And he just like he sends I was like, it's just a running joke at this
Oh my
point
god,
because
yeah, because so
it's
now it's
also
like bellhop.
ridiculous. No offense to anyone who's a bellhop. No offense. But there's it was almost
Right,
like, "Really? That's what it is?" And you
Mhm.
talk about services that are available and stuff like that, and really,
right.
Right.
two things. My son has been on the fence about, like, what does he wanna major in? He's talked about maybe being a math teacher, so he's taking a course at the high school called Tomorrow's Teachers, which is kinda like a job shadowing class, right? So, yeah, it's full year. They do some stuff in the fall where they learn about, teaching and theory and stuff like that, and then in the spring, they go to schools, mainly elementary schools. His old elementary school teacher, wants him to come back and be and help out in the classroom. And he's like, "Well, but I don't know if I want to do that." And what I told him was like, "Well, okay, you don't know if you want to be a teacher, but you might as well take the course because then as a high school senior, you can be like, yeah, I really don't want to do this.
Right.
And then you at least know an answer. So
Right.
you've used something at your disposal. Um, at, and
Yeah.
also, and I don't want to speak negatively about my district and the counselors in my district, but like when my wife went to like the information night, which we've went to a few times, like they really were pushing like the kids and if they have senior study and if they leave early and if they have a job and sometimes they need to rest before they have a job. They were really pushing this idea of senior study. And I was like, that can't be good. Like not that kids don't need to work because both my children have jobs,
Right.
but I just don't understand why there was such a push for that and not for the kids to really focus more academically, especially those that are looking to go to a 4-year institution in the future,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, can you speak to, like, whether or not that is something that can harm or help someone in regards to, like, senior study? Because we were confused by those statements and wondering, well, what exactly was I know there's no right path, but what direction those kids should actually go in.
So when you say senior study, are you talking like a study hall where
No,
they
they
just
leave.
They leave.
Oh, they actually leave. Okay, they leave the wow, okay.
It's like their day ends 90 minutes early and they can go home and they, get ready, go to work, do their job. But a lot of these kids are student athletes. They go home, they come back and like they have to go to practice. So they're not leaving to go like they got to be there anyway. You know
Right.
what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me.
This is my opinion. It is great for some students. Not every student is going to go to college, right? You do have your students
100%.
that right, you do have your students that, might wanna go into the trades and, there's some students that maybe wanna take some classes right after school that will prepare them for that. And that is great for them. That is great for them. But for the student who wants to go, especially a student that wants to go to a highly selective college, they better be using that time wisely. So, especially when they're in school, they should be staying there. They should be pushing themselves to take these more rigorous classes and things like that while they're there. Um, I do feel I do feel a little. My heart goes out to students nowadays because it wasn't like this when we were younger. Now there's so much pressure put on kids. You know, if you're not in school, you should be spending your time, with doing some kind of philanthropy or there is a lot of pressure on our kids nowadays. And these kids are putting the pressure on themselves. I mean, if you want to go to these highly selective schools, you better not sleep. Okay. I mean, you've got to constantly be doing something. So I mean, I guess it depends on what they are doing with their senior study time. I mean, if they have to work, if their family needs them to make money, I suppose that's something that they can talk about in their college essay, or in their application. That this was the situation they needed to leave so that they could work to support the family, or they had to leave for something else. But it's it's hard to put a blanket statement on that because it's different for everybody. But, if you're looking at a highly selective school, I would say use that time to take a course in, like Jamie said, her son was taking all these music classes and wasn't able to take these electives to explore. Use that time to explore, take some
Yeah.
additional electives to see what's out there.
And at the same time, just full disclosure, and I think I speak for Jamie on this one. Like our kids are not applying to Ivy League schools. They're very good students. They're hardworking. They're conscientious. They're well behaved. Like they're good kids. They're in the top 15% of their class, 15-20%. Don't ask me to do math because I'm bad at it. Um, but like they're applying to all New Jersey area schools. My kids are all within 2.5 hours driving distance of one another. We kind of found there's a school in New Jersey called the College of New Jersey, which is where I went, which is where my wife went,
Mhm.
which we
It's
really
pretty
like
much everyone's crush,
for the most
you
part.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a good school.
It's
There are
very difficult, right? They say
yeah,
it's very difficult. My sister has, 4 kids, and her oldest is gonna be a junior at Penn State, and every time I say, like, "Oh, and TC Engine," she's like, "Kira got in there." I'm like, "Kira got in everywhere." Like,
yeah.
stop with the but yes, yeah.
Yeah, but we also like when we went and looked there and full disclosure, and I've talked about this before, my wife is an associate dean at Rutgers, and my kids have the opportunity to go there for reduced tuition, but they are extremely intimidated by the size of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna make them go I'm not gonna make them go somewhere where they're unhappy. It's gonna be part of the conversation. We've talked about the finances, right? Where, we're gonna sit down with our finance person and we're gonna have my daughter gets anxious about this, but I think it needs to be the discussion. Like a lot of kids make decisions about their future in a vacuum because they see the ideal school and the big facilities, and then they come out of school with, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt that
Right.
they have difficulty paying back. And I want them to know what are the decisions that they're going to make now. How's that going to affect them in 4 years?
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
so that's one thing. We've also looked at schools, Jamie, you mentioned before, like for Drew's sake, like, oh, he doesn't know what to do. Like we visited Westchester over the summer, which is a small school in Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia, about 40 minutes. Actually where my wife started her undergrad, but they eliminated her major and she wound up transferring. And then, met me and the fairy tale began. But I was very impressed by that school. in regards to the services that they offer the kids. Like if you are an undecided major, they literally pair you up with like an undecided counselor person that walks you through and helps you make your schedule and sits down with you and meets with you once a month. Like they don't just say, go figure it out. Like it is very like, if you're
Right.
undecided, you're actually expected to do more in
Right.
regards to like advisement and go meet with teachers and professors and things like that. I just was very impressed by that.
It's
Um,
great. It's
and
awesome
that
that they do that.
service that was available to them, right?
Right.
And I talked about this, as well. You know, I was also impressed by, like, the services overall at that school, like, just a small aside, you decide you wanna rent an apartment off campus, which a lot of kids do at that school. They have, like, an off-campus housing department where you bring your lease and you sit down with somebody and they go over it with you and they talk to you about, like, "Okay, what are your responsibilities? What is the security deposit? If you have a problem at the place that you're living, how do you contact your landlord?" Like, they actually will help you have those conversations because a lot of
Great.
kids don't have. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I
That
thought
is
those
so
were great services to offer kids,
great.
especially those that, you know, post-pandemic maybe don't have those skills.
Right.
I
Right.
just thought it was great.
So, Jen, if I wanted to hire you, or do most people seek your services like for their juniors? Do they do this scrambling in the fall? And then what are some of the things that provide people?
Right. So I get students all throughout, freshman year. So I'm still getting seniors, parents who are contacting me right now, who students of, or parents of seniors, rising seniors. We haven't done anything. Help. Where do we get started? So,
Oh,
oh, go ahead, Joe.
no, I chuckled because that made me very nervous.
You know what,
Yeah,
though?
it's just
It's
I was just like,
okay.
"Ugh." I know it is, but
We can get them through. We can get them through.
I
Um,
I live with a field general who will not allow that to happen. So, they're already very deep into the Common App and writing essays and working on all that stuff
Good.
because it
Awesome. That's what
it
they should be doing right now.
yeah, I agree. I think it's the earlier in the fall that they can start and finish
Sure.
and get ahead of it, the more they can focus on those senior year academics and make sure they finish strong. So,
Sure, sure. I mean, I recommend so, when I take students on, it's different for every student is different. So I don't have like your a typical student, because they're all coming in at different times with different experiences. Some have done the work, some don't even know where to start. And sometimes those are my favorite people. They don't know where to start. And, I just, I'm like, okay, let's break it down. This is what we're going to start with first. But, when I work with students, um, we always start with where the student is at. I always ask them, where are you at? What do you need? And, I can help with the career search, the major search, if they're interested in that. We just get some students just need to get organized. Okay. Where do we start? Let's make a plan. Let's start building our list of colleges. Okay, so one of the first things we do is, especially if they're rising seniors and they haven't started doing anything yet, we build a balanced college list. So, we start talking about, they have some ideas of what schools they're looking at. And usually they're like you mentioned earlier, Joe, these big, schools that everybody knows about, that everybody wants to go to. Those are always the first ones on their list.
and they're $11 billion a year.
Right, right, and, they've got like a 13%, admit rate. So then I have to, kind of bring them down to reality a little bit and say, okay, those are some great schools. We're gonna add those to your list. Those will be reach schools. Many of those schools are reach schools for everybody. Um, so many of these highly selective schools have most of the students applying, have 4.0 GPAs and, 35, 36 on the ACT and on all of that. We've got to figure out how to stand out. So, we talk about that too. I talk about that actually early on with my students, if I can get them earlier. We talk about how we have a plan, a strategy. It's a strategy. We talk about how are we going to get you to stand out on your college applications when it's time to apply. So the earlier we get them, the better, because we have time to talk about maybe signing up, applying for some enrichment programs over the summer, or building your college narrative. We start that really early on. If we don't have the time, that's fine. We start building a list. So we go back to building the balance list. So here are some of your reach schools. Let's take care of some school, or let's take a look at some of these schools that, your profile, your academic profile, GPA, course rigor, test scores, kind of falls in line with what their average admitted student does. And then we say that's more of a possible school for you, right? Because, you're kind of, very similar to the admitted student at that school. And then we look at some likely schools. Okay. And I hate to call them backup plans, because a likely school can very, very much be a school that you wanted to go to. So a likely school is more of, their admission profile is a little bit, you're a little bit more, your academic profile is a little bit higher than what their average admit profile is. So we have a couple of each of those types of schools on their list, so that we know that when the students when they find out about their acceptances, they have some options, they can look at. So maybe they didn't get into their reach, maybe they did. But if they didn't, they still have some really solid backup schools that they're truly happy to attend. Any school that's on your list should be one that you would be happy to attend.
Hmm.
So I always tell students that.
Got it.
And I also tell students, when you apply, don't just apply to see if you can get into a school knowing that you probably won't go there. Only apply to schools where you would certainly attend if you were admitted. So we talk about that as well. So that's one of the first things we do. We look at the application deadlines. We, come up with a plan for what we're going to tackle first. We organize their application materials. Another thing I do is we have a program that we use with our students where we have their list in there. And then when we start talking about deadlines, we organize it by when the deadlines are, when the applications are due. And we tackle those earlier ones first. It's overwhelming when you're applying to colleges. And I know you both are going through this right now, because some schools require a recommendation letter. Some don't. Some want to see a resume. Some want an interview. Some don't. And it's hard to keep it all straight. So, I use a program with my students, but if you don't, you use Educational Connections or a counselor that has programs, even creating a spreadsheet. I had a student come in once that I worked with. She already had created a Google spreadsheet with all of her schools, and whether they were reach or, or target or safety, or
That's great.
and what they required and what their deadlines were. I'm like, what did you even hire me for? You got this all figured out, So I think it's important to stay organized, especially because there's all these moving parts and pieces with all these different colleges, and you don't want to miss something.
Yeah, and even through each visit that we went to, like, Westchester, for example, they're test optional.
Right.
And they don't have an additional essay that you need to write. And then it is very confusing. And some of them have like essay prompts that you want you to write, or you can write about any prompt that you choose. And
Right.
which is also
Right.
great. But it's almost it's kind of like when you go to a food court and you're hungry and you're just overwhelmed, and there's like all these different choices, and you're like, well, do I want Chick-fil-A? Do I want this thing? Do I want, and it can be, you are 100% right.
Right.
Very
Well,
overwhelming.
and you mentioned the testing. That's a whole other ballgame. I mean, now that we're, test optional it was big right after the pandemic, and now some schools are going back to, requiring test scores, but some still are not. Some are saying they never will require test scores. Some are still on the fence. You're trying to figure out, with my test score, do I send it? Do I not send it?
Exactly.
It's overwhelming. So that's another thing I work on with the students is, I have some tools that I use to help students decide whether they should send their scores or not. And we take into consideration many other factors when we're looking at that. We look at their GPA, we look at their course rigor, we look at, certain schools take certain things into consideration. So you've got some colleges who strongly consider demonstrated interest. Okay. I'm not even sure if you guys are familiar with what demonstrated interest is.
Nope. Enlighten us.
Okay. Some schools, they want to know that a student is is applying to their school because they really want to attend, or they were on the Common App, so they decided to put them on there and apply as well. So demonstrated interest. Go to visit campus.
Yep.
Okay. If you're showing that you're interested by taking a campus visit, if you're too far away, take the virtual tour. A lot of times now, when you take virtual tours, you have to actually put in your information so that they can keep you on a prospect list. Following them on social media is another thing. Contacting the admission office, not like constantly and bugging them, but if you've got a legitimate question or something, contacting them, attending their open houses. Anything you can do to show them that you're interested in that school is big. If a school offers interviews, sometimes they offer optional interviews. Take the optional interview. That's another thing that now colleges are looking at. So it's the essays, it's the test scores, it's the recommendation letters. It's a lot.
Yeah.
A
So,
lot.
one of the things that at the college career, or the college information night run by our district, that was brought up, that like we kind of were questioning once again, was that colleges look at the school profiles and compare apples to apples, right? So they're going to compare you in your school because your course of study is going to be different than other towns around you. So they're not going to prepare you. They're not going to compare you to, A town, B town. They're going to compare you to the kids that live in your town, and what your academic pathway looks like. Is that a necessary true statement, or do they actually compare them to other schools in other towns?
So they look at the students in the context of their own high school. You're absolutely right. They look at the school profile. They use that school profile to understand grading, course options, rigor. So students are evaluated mainly against other students at their high school. Applicants are still part of a larger pool, but colleges adjust for each school's unique grading system and opportunities. So that's, if a student didn't take any APs, but their school didn't offer any APs, they can't be penalized for that.
Exactly. And like my kids were taking they still have some AP classes or some dual enrollment, that there were certain things that like you said, like they were very interested in they took AP history. They offered an AP world history course as a freshman. They took it. They had AP US 1. They took it, and they weren't really, not that they weren't fond of the subject. It just wasn't a good experience for them. Grades were good, but they were just like, my daughter was, making her schedule and going, I don't know if I want to take this course. I just don't know if I'm going to be happy sitting there. Like, do I really want to take it? I'm like, well, you're answering your own question. Like, if you're not going to be happy,
Right.
like we
Right.
all as adults, there's a lot of things that we have to do that we don't want to do.
Right.
And as children, it might be one of the only times that they could decide, you know what? I have a case, and to use my good buddy's phrase, I have a case of the don't want tos, and I don't want to. And there's nothing wrong with that.
True. Can't want to.
Yeah. Can't want to.
Sure.
Can't
I
don't
can't
want to.
want to. My question is, I can't want to. So somewhere along the line, and I'm just asking, is this true or consideration or not? Showing consistent interest in so basically not being a flip-flopper. So if you started as a freshman, and you were playing football, we want to kind of see you consistently. Or if you started with a club, staying consistent with that rather than, every few months changing and doing something different. Does that make any kind of a difference?
I think it does. I think it does a little bit. When schools are looking at your activity list, and when you're filling out the common application, you guys are probably realizing this now because you're in the middle of it right now. They give you 10 spots to fill with your activities. Okay. Some students have more than 10. Some students don't even have 3. Okay. And that's fine. You don't have to have the big thing I want to mention first, even more so than sticking with one thing, is don't join a bunch of stuff just to put on your application. Okay. They look at quality over quantity.
Hmm.
So I guess in a way, Jamie, you're right, because you want a student who maybe joined or a member of student council since 10th grade, and they worked their way up. They started out just by dabbling in a few committees here and there, and now they've got a leadership position within the organization. Like there's a section in the Common App that you're going to have to describe the activity that you were a part of.
Right.
You don't want to just put attended a meeting once a month. Okay. Like you want to talk about how engaged you were in that activity. That tells the admission officer they didn't just, go to the meeting and go home and play Xbox for 4 hours. Like they spent a decent amount of time invested in these particular activities. So they would rather see 3 or 4 activities on their list where the students really threw themselves into it rather than just a laundry list of stuff that they were involved in just because they needed to add it to their activity list.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, I'm going to jump in with a hot take there, Miss Wonko,
Yes.
for our usual segment. I really think that it's important for kids to, at the same time, explore all of their, like we were talking about earlier. Like I'm a big believer in kids exploring their opportunities, and again, saying like, you know what, this wasn't for me. I'm going to go choose something else. And a lot of parents maybe don't have that uh, mentality, and not to speak negatively against them, where they're kind of the driving force behind their kids being involved in all these different activities. And we go back to why are we the parents that are doing all the things?
Right.
And it leads us to this never-ending cycle of overwhelmed,
Right.
not being able to be present. Like it's very difficult. So I think that we're doing ourselves a disservice if we're forcing our children into all these activities that they um, might not want to do, and quality over quantity, right? Choosing the right activities that are going to speak to the strengths of the individual. Like my son's been involved in some activities and to give it a try, but then there's things that he knows he's not strong in, so he avoids those particular activities. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that
Yeah.
at all. And, you know, so many times I've encountered this where parents just push these students to do this, do that. You can encourage them, of course, a slight nudge. Hey, have you heard about this club? Maybe check it out and see if, but if a student keeps resisting, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to enjoy it. And it's not going to come through to these college admission officers.
Right.
They have to write an essay. Many, they don't have to, but for many schools, they have to write a personal essay. It's on the Common Application. You see all the different prompts that you can choose, or you can choose your own thing to write about. We want them to write about an experience that they felt really shaped them or made them who they are or tells a story about them. And, if they just did a bunch of stuff that their parents wanted them to do, that heartfelt, none of that is going to come through in the essay,
Yep.
So
My son's junior year English teacher had them write their essay, and I thought it was such a great activity. And he said, "Oh, you want to see my essay?" I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy that you got a job." And it was so nice to read because it really did, speak to his, personal experience. And I was like, "Wow!" And one less thing we have to do at home, which is really nice. I don't know if that's like standard across the board or if it was just that teacher that he had, but did your kids write it in school, Joe?
Not that I know of.
No. Okay.
No.
I'm just curious.
I
Yeah, yeah.
think there was talk that they were supposed to. We did hear that from the teacher, but I don't think that ever got.
Happened.
No.
Got it.
we did it at the high
Um,
school I was at. Like we
and
would
again, same, and here we go
Same
again.
school.
Same school, same
same
department,
school.
Yeah, they
same
go to the
school.
same school.
Yes, they go to the same school. Sorry, same school, same English department,
Yeah.
different teachers. They do things differently.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't. Again, something I don't agree with. I mean, if you're going to do that, because that does not put my kids at a disadvantage. However, I am not a English college writing essay expert. Maybe their English teacher isn't either, but they have more experience in that regard than I do. And I know
They
that.
could be able to help with grammar and all sorts of other parts and pieces too, you would
Yeah,
think, but
exactly.
yeah.
And I mean, Jamie, you may teach social studies now, but your background is in language arts and English, so you also have that advantage too. But again, your son probably respectfully listens to you, but at the same time, I was like, mom doesn't know anything.
Oh,
The
yeah,
way
sure.
moms, once our kids turn a certain age, they don't think we know anything anymore.
No.
No, they
It's
don't.
always better to have them talk to somebody else because the parents, we don't know. We don't know.
We don't know anything.
No, we do not.
I will
We
tell you-
only know he's going to be a physical therapist.
I would love to talk to you again in a couple of years and see if that came to fruition.
I know, right? That'd be good. That'd be good to know. So Jen, I can't thank you enough for joining us on our episode today. You know,
This was fun. Thanks for
yeah.
having me.
no,
I
it's-
know.
it-
We may not be done with you, Jen. We may be revisiting you in a couple of months to do
Yeah,
a
I-
check-in
I-
to see.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that might be the case. So, as always, give us a like, a follow, tell a friend on all the socials, everybody. And hey, Jamie, I appreciate you. Jen, I appreciate you too.
I appreciate
No.
you.
Jen, I appreciate both of you. I appreciate our conversation today. And we look forward to hearing all about you through Educational Connections. And people can find you there if they would like to
Yes.
hire
Make sure
you.
I have the website right, www.ectutoring.com.
That is it. And good
and-
luck to your kiddos as they embark on
Thank
this
you.
fun journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right. We'll see everybody next time on the Balancing Act podcast.
Bye-bye.
Look for the Balancing Act podcast every week on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Thank you for being a part of our audience. We appreciate you.